There's a wasp in this room. I don't know if you realise it. You probably don't, unless I've mentioned it in one of the later segments and I've put the later segments in before this one, which can happen. Unless I did that, you don't know about the wasp yet. But there is indeed a wasp here. There's a wasp here. I only notice it when I'm not speaking, though. That's the thing. I stop speaking between segments. And I sit here, I have a sip from the dregs of a bottle of Coca-Cola, zero sugar, and I watch the previous segment upload, and it starts the process of having stuff done to it. I heard either a wasp or a bee. I don't know what the difference is between a wasp and a bee, but I heard something and it was buzzing. It was buzzing, and I didn't have a cat in here who could catch it. There is a cat who likes to sit in here, but when I come in here and start recording, the cat invariably asks to be excused. So I get up and let the cat out. This is the middle of June, so I suppose it is wasp season. I suppose. Oh no, the wasp was flying around, being waspish. I would like to point out, though, that I wasn't afraid of the wasp. I think that's been a character progression for me. I used to be afraid of wasps and bees. If I heard a wasp in the past flying around here, I tell you, I'd have got out a shotgun. Except I wouldn't have a shotgun. But if I had a shotgun, I'd have got out the shotgun. I wouldn't have loaded it, but I tried to trap the wasp under the butt of the shotgun. Hopefully it would be on a flat surface. I'd point the shotgun down at or any kind of a gun. I don't even know what a shotgun is. I don't know the differences between different types of guns. I presume they all have a bit at the end where there's a kind of a barrel, and if you point the barrel down at a surface like a table or a floor, you can trap a wasp underneath it. And would you be able to do it and then release it somehow? If you slide a big piece of paper under the end of the butt and then trap the wasp in the gun and then free it somewhere. I don't want to hurt the animal. I'd trap it under the butt of the gun. I'd have the gun pointed down towards the floor, wherever the wasp is, and I'd trap the wasp in the end of the gun like that. And then I'd slide a piece of firm cardboard. I'd slide that under the butt of the gun, between the gun and the floor. And then I'd hold that in, and that would hold the wasp hopefully long enough for me to carry it to somewhere where I'd free it. So I'd release it then. I'd be humane. Probably into the toilet bowl, and then I'd flush it humanely, and I'd flush it out of here. The drains and toilet pipes in this house have been professionally cleaned recently, so they're in good shape, so it won't get stuck anywhere. It'll get straight down, I presume, into wherever the shit goes. I presume that's where the wasp goes. Now you may think, oh, does he think that's humane? Yes, I do think that's humane. Wasps and insects like that like to hang around and shit. There's a reason they have that phrase, happy as a fly in horse shit. Oh wait, is that happy as a pig in horse shit? No. Why would a pig be happy in horse shit? I know they do have a phrase like that about pigs, but it's not happy as a pig in horse shit. Unless horses get nutrition from a different part of their food than pigs do. So when the horse's bodily waste is nutritious to a pig, the pig gets nutrition from whatever part of that food the horse doesn't get nutrition from. I don't know. But if I had a pig and it was craving horse shit, I would get straight onto the vet and tell him that this pig is undernourished. We need to do blood tests and figure out what it's not getting. Is it not getting enough of some sort of vitamin Q, or why is it craving horse shit? Is that normal? I would bet you it's not normal. And maybe the vet will say, no, that means the horse is producing something that it shouldn't be producing. I know it's producing shit. And horses are supposed to produce shit, but no, there's something wrong there because it's not normal for it to make a pig salivate. No. I presume it's different for wasps. If you flush a wasp down the toilet, now, would I flush it or would I... Here's an interesting thing. If I had it trapped in a gun, would it be better to flush it down the toilet or shoot it down the toilet? There's a question for you. I suppose the problem with shooting it down the toilet is the U-bend. If you shoot it into the toilet, that's just going to make a hole in the U-bend. That's the problem with U-bend. I know they serve a purpose, but they also serve an anti-purpose. You can't shoot something down a toilet humanely. Much as wasps like to go into the toilet and get to the sewers, they don't like the journey, I presume. You want them to get to the sewerage system as quickly as possible. Round that U-bend and down into wherever they go. So I don't know. I have to think about this when I'm not busy doing a podcast because I can't think and talk at the same time. So I'll think about it later.
Into your head. Into your head. Into your head. Into your head. Into your head.
We've a lot to get on with today. Items that need to be attended to, issues that need to be addressed, topics. Oh, topics. We've got lots and lots of topics. We're positively booming to the seams with topics. We've got topics coming out of me wondering whether that belch I just did in the middle of a sentence is going to be automatically cut out. That'll be interesting to see now because I belched just after I did. We've got lots and lots of topics. And then I paused and then carried on. Well, there's a good chance it's going to get automatically cut out, in which case you'll have no idea that I just belched, except you will, because I'm telling you now that I just belched. If the software was all that intelligent, it would cut out not only the belch, but everything I said about the belch here, or else it would offer me an option. It would have a dialogue box come up and say, do you want to delete this belch and all appropriate explanations of the belch? Or do you want to leave this belch in and leave in all exclamations of the belch, but remove the bit where you talk about the fact that this software is asking you whether to do this or not? That could get rather complicated. And that's the problem with these podcasts. We make everything too fucking complicated. There's two types of media things that should exist. Someone just talking with no editing or anything, or a movie, which is the complete opposite, where every inch is edited and directed, and that's what you should do with movies. If you're one of these Netflixes and you're looking to bring in the premium version and an ad-supported version and a lower cost version, each tier should be based on whether the movies include all the best takes from each scenes or all the worst takes for each scenes or all the in-the-middle takes for each scenes. You make 3 versions of every movie. One goes in the top tier of Netflix and the other one goes on the kind of in-the-middle, average, normal, regular thing. And then the other one is ad-supported and you pay for it. Because half of the ads are movie trailers anyway. And if you're watching a movie trailer at that low tier, the trailer you're seeing is going to include the best take because they're trying to show their best face. So if you're getting to see those trailers despite only paying for the bottom tier, you should be paying for that. You should be paying for those trailers as well. I think that would be much better than what we have today. We have Netflix pumping out crap every Monday to Thursday. They put out some crap. They don't seem to put anything out on Saturdays and Sundays. They think nobody watches anything on a Saturday or a Sunday. And if they do, they don't watch anything new because we don't put out anything new. So there's no point in us putting out anything new because they won't watch it because they're used to us not putting out anything new. And if we put out anything new, they'll say, oh, I'm not going to check if there's anything new up there because there won't be anything new up there because there's nothing new under the sun. There's nothing new and everything's derivative of everything else. What was that Meatloaf song? It's not entirely relevant here, but it's a bit like that. He said, everything louder than everything else. Everything louder than, I think it was Wasted Youth, was it? It might have been. Everything louder than everything else. Everything louder than everything louder than everything else. Clearly nonsense. Everything can't be louder than everything else, because if that's the case, it all goes round in their circle. It doesn't make any sense at all. Everything can't be louder than everything else. Something has to be less loud, unless you get to the highest level and then it goes back down to 0. The 0 can't be louder than the loudest thing. That's not how that works. Not how that works at all. It's absolute drivel. Pure unmitigated bollocks. And I shouldn't be allowed to put that in a song. He's dead now. I think he's dead now. So anyway, there you go. It's time to get up off my arse and get on with it. So let's get up off my arse and get on with it. 2 cats walk into a bar. One of the cats goes straight up to the bar counter and says, hello, can I have a pint of your finest Guinness, please? And the man behind the bar says, "Certainly, sir, a pint of your finest Guinness coming right up, or my finest Guinness. But it'll be your finest Guinness in a moment. Although ownership doesn't transfer until you've settled your bill. But that's a technicality. Let's not worry about that in here. We don't want to ruin the atmosphere in a hostelry with, is that what it's called? A hostelry, hospitality thing. Do am I a hospitality person? I don't know. This is a pub. People come in here to buy drink and pour it down their gullets. Am I really a hospitality provider? I don't think I am. I think I'm just a fella here who pours pints and checks the toilets every few minutes and worries about whether I'm going to make any money out of this, especially when there's people over there sipping water at a very slow rate. They're getting through one glass of water every 3 hours. And in order to break even, I have to sell them at least 6 glasses of water. It's a worry, I can tell you, especially in today's economy. But I try not to worry about her. I try to be a hospitality provider. Because otherwise, I'm not going to get any satisfaction out of my career. I mean, what? Am I supposed to just sit here and think, oh, Christ, I'm just pouring out drinks for cats all day, every day. In fact, now that you mentioned it, you young cat, you're the only person who comes in here and regularly buys something that's profitable from me. I appreciate your custom. I do. I appreciate it very much. And the cat says, "You're telling me no one else comes in here and buys pints of Guinness?" And the man behind the bar says, "Oh no, lots of people do that. You're the only one who specifies a pint of your finest Guinness. And it's the finest Guinness that I make the real money on. Whatever the latest type of Guinness extra they have, they always have some new brand. It's the same as laundry detergents. They always have some new gimmick. They have some new Arial Bold Extra Plus. They do the same with the Guinness. They have a Guinness Plus Stout. The latest thing is you get an extra 2 millimeters of head. Of course, that drives people nuts because they say, oh, you're doing it in metric now. You're turning my pint into metric. Well, no, we're not. You're still getting the pint. It's just an extra 2 millimeters on top because someone realised this particular pint glass that I have, it still holds exactly a pint, but somehow it can balance an extra 2 millimeters of head on top. So we thought, why don't we have a Guinness Plus as an extra bit of head on top? Doesn't provide any additional nutrition because it's probably just, well, I don't know what a head is made out of. I probably should because I'm a bar operator. I should know what the head of a pint of Guinness is made out of, but I don't. I really don't. I've no idea. I've been doing this for all my life. And then as a child, I was drinking Guinness. So I've been drinking Guinness all my life and selling it for all of my adult life. Well, I've no idea what goes into this stuff here. You have this white stuff. You sit here and the cat says, your sound is a bit off there. And the barman says, oh, sorry, I was just leaning over here to see the pint because I'm pulling your pint here. I want to do it properly, so I want to lean over here. So sorry, I had to lean away from the microphone, which, as you know, is just over the middle of the bar taps here. And the Guinness tap is just at the end there on its own, in its own little pride of place there. Oh, I wanted to check that. And the cat says, what in the name of Christ are you talking about? And the barman says, don't ruin the theatre of the mind here. We all know damn well I was leaning away from the microphone to see the screen to make sure it was recording. That's what I was doing. But we're in a pub here, so we can't say that. We say, oh, I was just leaning over to check your Guinness or something. And the cat says, I see. Well, you've kind of ruined it now. Because everyone knows now this is just a podcast. You're not a barman. And I'm not even the cat. I'm not even the cat. You do know that. I'm not even the cat. And the barman says, oh, I don't know about that. There was a cat in here a few minutes ago when you came in. When we came in to start recording, there was a cat in here. And then we closed the door and then the cat asked to be excused. So I got up and let the cat out. But now there's you, an imaginary cat. You're a lot more present than the real cat who asked to be excused. You haven't asked to be excused, so that makes you a lot more present than the cat who asked to be excused. And the cat says, that's a load of bollocks, isn't it? And the barman says, well, it depends. Do you want it to be a load of bollocks? Then it can be. If you don't want it to be a load of bollocks, it can be that too. What would be best for the story here? And the cat says, I think what would be best for the story here would be if you gave me my pint of Guinness, please. And I don't want any of your fucking Guinness Extra or Guinness Plus Ultra or whatever. I just want a normal pint of Guinness. Your finest Guinness, but a pint of it. No extras. And the barman says, oh, so you want standard Guinness. You don't want my finest Guinness. My finest Guinness is the Guinness Plus with the extra 2 millimeters of head. And the cat says, no, that's just the way you present this. That's like if you sell someone a big burger and you put a toothpick on top of it to hold the burger together. Even though it's not that big, it doesn't need to be held together by a toothpick. But you put the toothpick on to give the impression that it's that extra big burger that needs a big toothpick to hold it together. And the barman says, I think you're thinking of cocktail sticks. They wouldn't use toothpicks in a restaurant. Certainly not in this country where we have standards and we have health inspectors going around. You wouldn't put a toothpick into that. For one thing, people would be disgusted to say, I don't know where that toothpick has been. I don't want it in my burger. And then they'll take it out. And then they notice that the burger hasn't fallen apart because it was structurally sound. And it's structurally sound because it's not as big as the ones in the photo on the menu. And then they say, this burger didn't need anything to hold it together at all. Look, it's perfectly fine. It's holding itself together like that. This is a con. This is a con. I'm getting out of this restaurant now. I'm not going to pay the bill. Not least because it hasn't arrived yet. It's not a dine and dash. I won't eat this. I'll leave this here. In fact, maybe I'll bring it over to the desk on the way out. Is there a desk in here? I don't know. Do restaurants have desks? I suppose they do. The place where you go to pay on your way out. If it's an Eddie Rockets, there's kind of a desk. There's a place where you go and you pay. I don't know if you call that a desk or a counter or what, because I think of a desk as someone sitting at a desk and there's in trays and computer, and the desktop itself is at around, well, it's lower than waist level. So when I see someone standing at something that looks like a reception desk, I don't think of that as a desk at all, because maybe I've spent too long in offices. I don't think of those as a desk. A place where you have to stand is not a desk. A desk is a place where you sit down and do stuff. If they have to stand up to do stuff, that's not a desk. That's a fucking gymnasium. You're being paid to work in a gymnasium. And when they have them in these places like Eddie Rockets, it's even worse than that because you're not even allowed to stand at that part of the gymnasium all day. You have to go and do other stuff. You have to go and be a waiter or a waitress as well. And then you only get to go up to the standing so-called desk when there's someone there waiting to pay. You don't even get to stop and have a nice little stand-up. The nearest you can get to a nice little sit-down at a standing desk. You have a nice little stand-up and have a breather. No, you don't even do that. You don't even get to take the weight off your hands. You can't take the weight off your feet, obviously, because it's a standing desk. But you would think at least you could have a few minutes to take the weight off. Well, now that's interesting. Now it's just occurred to me. If you're a standing desk, presumably sometimes you have to go over to someone else's desk, or you go to a meeting in the next room, or you have to go up to the photocopier, so you're away from your desk sometimes. If you've been away from your desk for a good while, maybe you've been doing some filing, and then you come back to your desk, but it's a standing desk, you think, normally if it's a sitting desk, you get to take the weight off your feet for a while. But no, you don't get to take the weight off your feet. You get to stand there. I suppose if you put your hands on the desk and you adopt a posture whereby you shift some of the weight of your body onto your hands, I suppose that would work. But then you're putting extra weight on your hands. So when you leave the desk, I suppose that might be good for when you're leaving the desk, because then you can tell yourself, oh, I have to go do some filing now, or go to the photocopier. That means I can take the weight off my hands for a few minutes. That'll be nice. I suppose it's all psychological, really, isn't it? It's all psychological. And the cat says, so do you think of your bar as a standing desk or what? And the barman says, oh Christ, no, I have a proper desk in the back office there. I have a proper desk in the back office there. If I have enough staff, I go into the back office, just like your man Sam does on Cheers. He goes into the back office and he sits down And he does, I don't know what he does in there. He's usually having a conversation with someone anytime we see him. We don't see him when there's nobody having a conversation with him because it's just he just disappears off and he's probably not even in there. We're told he's going into the office with a TV set. We don't know what he's doing in there. He's probably just, he goes through the door and then he probably goes out a back door and he says, "Oh, I'm done filming for the day. I'm going to go home now." They can do that thing where they talk about being the fake bar and say, "Oh, Sam's in there doing some paperwork." Of course, that's a problem if he hasn't read the script properly. And your man, the postman fella, if he bursts through into the office looking for Sam and Sam isn't there, I suppose that could be a problem. I suppose they could write that into the script. They could say, "Oh, your man bursts into the office looking for Sam and Sam isn't there. He's not there." Of course, if you do that on every episode, it gets to a point where Sam becomes a not very present character at all. Like one of those characters who you don't see, I suppose. There's sitcoms where they have people who you never see. I can't think of one at the moment. I'd have to think about it. There's definitely one or two sitcoms where there's a character who you never see. Certainly in the Charlie Brown Peanuts cartoons, there's a teacher who you never see. You never even get to hear her real voice. They show the children sitting at their desks and you get the sound of a teacher going mer 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 mer, which is rather insulting when you think about it. But if you think that's bad, wait till you read the original Peanuts comic strip. You don't even get to hear the teacher at all. They just show words. They say, "Here's some words that anyone could have put here." That teacher spent 4 years learning how to teach, probably 20 years perfecting it. You just display her as a few words on the end of a fucking comic strip in a newspaper. Absolutely insulting. Although is it? That's probably not a real teacher. So they're lucky to be there at all, to have words coming out of them at all when they don't exist. A bit like yourself, a cat in my bar. And the cat says, "Oh, is that right? That's very interesting now." And the barman says, "What's very interesting now?" And the cat says, "Whatever you just said is very interesting." Sorry about that. I was checking again whether the Guinness was coming out. And the cat says, "It seems to be taking a while, doesn't it?" And the barman says, "Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Everything comes to those who wait, isn't that what they say?" And the cat says, "Oh, you mean like death?" And the barman says, "Ash, you've got a bad attitude. Do you know that? You've got a bad attitude. But I'm a hospitality provider, so I'm just going to sit here and make you a nice pint of Guinness Plus, even though you only want a normal Guinness. I'm not even going to charge extra for it. I'm going to give you a pint of Guinness Plus." And the cat says, "Excuse me, I do not want a pint of Guinness Plus. I know how that's made. They dilute the head somehow so there's extra air. It takes away from the experience. It makes the head less creamy because you stretch it out another couple of millimeters. That's what I suspect anyway. I don't want that. I've been looking forward to this pint of Guinness all day. I've had a long day at the cat office doing cat stuff in the cat office. And I come in here and I really don't. By the way, I really don't need to hear about your office." And the barman said, "Wait, I thought you asked me about my office." And the cat says, "Oh, yes, I did. I shouldn't have. But you're a hospitality provider. You should be able to determine whether or not I really want to hear about your office. You should know that if someone comes into the bar and asks about your office, you should be able to sense, using your hospitality sensors, you should be able to sense whether or not the customer really wants to hear about your day at the office or they just want you to ask about theirs." And the barman says, I suppose I should. And sometimes it's just hard to give a shit about anything. And the cat says, "Okay, maybe you're not a hospitality provider after all. What are we going to do here?" And the barman says, I don't know. I suppose we could just give up." And the cat says, "Give up what?" And the barman says, "Well, I suppose there's nothing to give up because we don't exist, so we're not really giving anything up. So I suppose if we don't want to do anything, and we already don't exist. Let's just keep up the status quo and continue to not exist. How about that? And the cat says, does that mean we stop talking? And the barman says, we were not talking in the first place. This conversation isn't happening. We don't exist. This conversation isn't happening. This Guinness that I'm pouring for you isn't going to pay any rent of mine because it doesn't exist, and this isn't a bar. So they have no benefit to anyone except maybe to you. Maybe you have a better imagination than mine and you can enjoy a pint of imaginary Guinness better than my average customer who doesn't exist. I don't know. And the cat says, you know what's wrong with you? And the barman says, there's absolutely nothing wrong with me because I don't exist. And the cat says, yes, I know all that, but just humour me for a minute. Do you know what's wrong with you? And the barman says, no, I don't. And the cat says, well, I do. You're a cunt. That's what it is. And the barman says, you see, this is why it'd be better if we just weren't here doing this. You're just bringing in nastiness into this. And the cat says, don't be ridiculous. There was no nastiness in that. It was just me saying the C word, making myself laugh despite not existing, bringing laughter into the world. How could be anything to be bad about that? I bet you there's at least one or two people who spoiled listening to that, even though we don't exist. And the barman says, oh, that's an awful thing to accuse the listener of doing, of enjoying someone saying the C word. Do you know, half the people listening to this are Americans. Over there, if you say the C word over there, and by C word I mean cunt, oh, they think it's the end of the world. It's worse than when Sinead O'Connor tore up the Pope's hat on some MTV awards or something. Do you remember that, Sinead O'Connor? May she rest in peace. She came on the television in America once and she said, oh, the Pope is I think it was on Saturday Night Live, was it? They didn't have the real Pope on. I don't think they even had anyone playing the Pope. She just came on and decided to talk to the Pope who wasn't even there. By the way, does that remind you of anything, Kat? Talking to someone who isn't there and yet it's considered something of value. Does that remind you of anything, imaginary Kat? Well, anyway, Sinead O'Connor came on Saturday Night Live. And I've never seen it myself, but I've heard it. She said something about the Pope. I think she said something about, did she tear something up or something? Oh, was it? She had a picture of the Pope. She had a picture of the Pope and she tore it up. She said, this is a picture of the Pope. I'm hereby tearing it up. Now, I don't think she said those exact words, but that was what she conveyed to her actions. She conveyed the idea that she was tearing up a picture of the Pope. And the way she conveyed the idea that she was tearing up a picture of the Pope was by tearing up a picture of the Pope. It was Saturday Night Live. What the Americans think is a normal comedy show. Someone comes on for 90 minutes every 3 days for 45 years. And you think, oh, perfectly normal. We just have these people pumping out an hour and a half of material every 3 days for 84 years. And then if they have a bad week, they say, oh, that thing, why are they bad this week? Is there something wrong with them? How dare they not be perfect every fucking minute of every day? Meanwhile, in normal countries, we have sketch shows that go on for 25 minutes for 6 episodes in a season once every 3 years, and then they finish and retire after 3 years. And someone who's 20 years younger starts a new sketch show, and they do the next generation. We have normal sketch shows in our part of the world. I say in our part of the world, not in Ireland. Ireland has fuck all comedy on the television. But there's plenty of sketch shows from that country over there that we're not supposed to like. They have plenty of sketch shows and we all watch them. No matter what people say, we watch English television. We just don't admit. People don't admit to it. Because if we admit to watching English television there, they say, oh, what's wrong with you? There's something wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with me, except the fact that Irish television is all chat shows and magazine programs about consumer affairs and the news and election debates and, cartoons for children. If you want comedy in this country, you have to get a foreign television program and watch that. And the cat says, well, that's fascinating. That's fascinating. We'll have to edit out the last minute or two of that because it was all bollocks. You're going nowhere with it. The rest of it, perfectly fine. Well done. And the barman says, "Oh, I wonder, is your Guinness ready yet?" And the cat says, "Well, can you not determine that by just looking at it?" And could you not, in the time that you uttered the words, "I wonder, is your Guinness ready yet?" Could you not have just gone and looked at it, determined whether it was ready or not? And the barman says, "I don't think you're quite grasping the idea of theatre of the mind here, young cat. Young cat, you're really not getting it at all, are you? It's of no value. If I'm just sitting here thinking, I wonder what that Guinness is like, and I'm not saying anything, that's of no value. That's like if Sinead O'Connor had just stood there on Saturday Night Live behind the cameraman so he couldn't even see her, and if she hadn't been wearing a microphone and possibly not even holding a photo of the Pope, she had pre-torn it. Actually, now that you mentioned it, maybe that would have been less controversial if she'd pre-torn the photo. I don't know how broadcasting regulations work over there in America, but I wonder, it'd be interesting to know. If she had pre-torn up that photo before she went on air and came on with a bag of torn bits of paper and said, "This is a torn up picture of the Pope. It's disgraceful, isn't it? You know what I'm going to do with this? Well, I'm going to stick it back together with sellotape just to show that this was torn up earlier. Now, sticking it back together, technically under the law, that's not an act of disrespect. It's quite the opposite. I'm sticking it back together. I've let out all my anger before we went on air by tearing this up, and then I'm sticking it back together. Isn't that great? I think that's great. That's like if someone kicks a ball into your back garden and you're so pissed off, you go out and find the ball, and then you get one of your cats who doesn't go out much and has very sharp claws, and you give it to their cat and they puncture the ball, and then you throw the ball out. Well, if you were to go do that and then you went and answered the door to the child who was looking for their ball and you said, "Oh, look, I have your ball here. Oh, it's been punctured, unfortunately. Here, I'm going to fix it. I'm going to get my puncture repair kit and fix it in front of you." That would be contributing something positive to the world while also dealing with that fucking child kicking their balls into your garden, wouldn't it? And the barman says, "Wait, was that you saying that or me?" And the cat says, "I don't know. Let's just say it was you and I'll respond. Because I'm a cat. Why would I get a cat and bring it out into the... That would be a bit weird." And the barman says, "Oh, I suppose that's true. I forget what we were going to follow up this with anyway." And the cat says, "I think that was enough, though, that whole ball thing. I think we've gone as far as it's going to go." And the barman says, "Oh, okay, fair enough. Let's see if your pint's nearly ready." And the cat says, "Oh, for fuck's sake." Then the barman says, "Oh, I see what you mean now about the C word. You saying 'oh, for fuck's sake' sounds completely harmless after having the C word earlier." And the cat says, "I didn't say the F word would be less shocking because we did the C word earlier. I didn't say anything like that. Did you?" And the barman says, "No, but it's theatre of the mind. Let's pretend we did." And the cat says, "Okay, what do we pretend I said?" And the barman says, "See proceeding." And the cat says, "How about we pretend you didn't say see proceeding?" And the barman says, "Okay, now what?" And the cat says, "Now you look at the clock there and realise you've been talking for 27 minutes non-stop. And you think, Christ, I didn't realise that. That's quite impressive." And the barman says, "It's less impressive when you realise it's two people talking. It's a dialogue. A monologue for 27 minutes would indeed be quite impressive. But no, there's two of us here. It's a dialogue. So that's less impressive. Any podcast can have a dialogue for 27 minutes non-stop. You do hold it. Joe Rogan goes on for 3 hours talking to some fella. They say, "Hello, I'm Joe Rogan. Here's 10 minutes of ads for drugs that you put in your Irish butter. You stir them into your coffee and then you pour them down your gullet. And then you do a podcast. My guest today, he's your man. Who's your man? What's his face? The controversial fella who I have on all the time. He's not really that controversial, is he? No, the fella who he just likes to stab people in the face. That fella you have on a lot who likes to stab people in the face. We're going to have him on for 4 hours now today because you want to hear what he has to say." And the cat says, "I don't think Joe Rogan has anyone on who likes to stab people in the face." And the barman says, "I told you this is a theatre of the mind. It's not real." It's an exaggeration. It's like a caricature of the actual Joe Rogan program. We pretend he has people on who like to stab people in the face, and that's an exaggeration, a caricature of what he actually does, which is relatively less extreme than that. It's just making a point. And the cat says, speaking of making a point, and the barman says, what? And the cat says, how's my point going? And the barman says, oh, let's see now. Oh, it's up to 29 minutes and 17 seconds. And the cat says, no, I mean, how's my pint doing? And the barman says, oh, your Guinness. Here you go, here it is. And the cat says, about fucking time. Can I have a straw, please? And the barman says, oh, here you go. I one left. And the cat says, oh, very clever, very clever. And the barman says, okay, I've got 2 left. I just don't like when people ask for a second straw. It's just a bit greedy, and they destroy the environment. All these straws, people wanting 2 straws when one will do. They're designed to be perfectly adequate with 1 straw. And the cat says, but they're all made of tissue paper now. That's why we need 2. And the barman says, no, these are reusable straws. They are made of tissue paper, but they're recyclable. You can turn them into papier mâché. And then you don't reuse it as a straw, but you use it as something else when it's done. You turn it into papier mâché. When I was a child, we had a gadget. We had a big bucket. You'd fill it up with old newspapers that you tear up, and then you pour some water into it. You let it soak for about a week. And then you put all the mushy paper stuff into this gadget, and it turns it into a brick. You kind of stand on the handles to compresses it into a brick. And we used to use those to heat the house when I was a child. It only cost whatever much it is to read 10 newspapers a day, because we used all the newspapers and did that. Of course, you can't do that now. You can't turn an electronic newspaper into a papier mâché central heating fire fuel block. It just doesn't work. Suppose that's for the best. You wouldn't want to be out there making bricks in the weather that's cold enough to need central heating. I mean, that would defeat the purpose. It just occurred to me, why did my parents never do that indoors? We had a fucking garage. We had a garage. We didn't even use it for a car. The front of the garage, there was partitions. The front half of the garage was for bicycles and a few tools. And the back side of the garage was a laundry and homebrew beer making area. I'm sure you could have found room for a papier mâché production corner in there. Surely to Christ. But no, we did it out in the side yard. I think maybe we're showing off. Just showing everybody, look at us, we're making these papier mâché bricks. Isn't it great? Isn't it great?
Into your head.
Once upon a time, there was a dog. A dog. A dog. Basically a dog. Now, if you're a new listener here, I'll just briefly explain. This is probably not going to be about a dog at all. It's just one of the ways I have of getting going. To start a segment, I'll say, once upon a time there was a dog. A dog. Basically a dog. And then see where it goes. I like the way that sounds in my headphones going, dog. It's also a USP. There's about 150,000 podcasts now. And I found that very few of them have someone who starts segments by going, once upon a time there was a dog. So it's good to stand out in that way. You have your own unique selling point. If you looked hard enough, you'd probably find someone who does it. Well, he pronounces it slightly differently, or goes, once upon a time there was a horse, and he doesn't enjoy saying it. Or he does it the same as me and goes, once upon a time there was a dog. He or she, they do exactly the same as me, but they don't enjoy it. So there's always going to be something different about it. No matter how similar we are, us podcasters, to each other, nothing's going to be exactly the same as anyone else. That's the great thing about it. You've millions to choose from. You've one fella who goes, once upon a time there was a dog. A dog. Basically a dog. And who enjoys saying that. And then you have another fella, or possibly a woman, on another podcast who starts segments with, Once upon a time there was a dog, basically a dog, but doesn't enjoy doing it. In fact, it probably freaks them out. They may well end up finding themselves going to the emergency room every time they do that because they think they've injured their mouth. Well, I don't feel like I've injured my mouth at all. Oh, maybe a little bit. If I have, it's more similar to the way you feel like you've injured your mouth when you have a very hot sauce. It's enjoyable. Injuring yourself can be enjoyable sometimes, as long as it's not a psychological problem that's leading you to do it. If you're just doing it for recreation, that can be enjoyable. There are people who play the guitar all day and they go home with cuts all over their fingers from a long day at the office practicing the guitar playing. They come home with huge cuts on their fingers half bleeding, and they're still satisfied. They say, "Oh, look, my fingers are fucked. That means I've had a great day. I've been practicing the guitar all day. Someday soon I'll be able to play it properly. Then I'll probably get a promotion at the office. They'll say, oh, that fella, he really got the hang. That fella you hired last year as the office junior in the guitar playing department. He's getting very good at that. I think we can promote him. We won't have to pay him a lot because he didn't go to guitar school. He just came straight in here. We trained him from office boy, and he'll be delighted to just take an extra few euros a week. Next time one of the guitar operators leaves, we'll have this new fella, and he won't even have to give him a big share or anything. He'll be delighted with himself. He'll say, oh, look, I dropped out of college and became an office boy, and I kept my head down. I worked away at my guitar playing all day, every day, and then a guitar player died and I got his job. Isn't it great? That's what happens in those bands. The guitar player dies or the drummer dies, and then someone else gets a promotion. That's what happened in ZZ Top. One of the beard people died a year or two ago, and they promoted one of the session musicians or one of the people who goes on tour with them. They promoted him to official. Probably happens in offices all over the place. You're probably wondering why I keep mentioning offices with regard to guitar players. You're probably thinking guitar players don't work in offices. Well, they do. Guitar players work in offices all the time. You go into your average medium-sized business and go around, have a look around that office. You won't see people playing guitars. That's the thing, you see. It's undetectable because they're doing it in the privacy of their own homes. But you can be damn sure to Christ as hell they're spending their whole day at work thinking about guitar playing. Every time they go and open the photocopier, they say, oh, this is just like if I take off the front of the guitar and I have a look inside to see if there's a paper jam. You can't have a paper jam in a guitar, incidentally. There's a big hole there under the strings. They're odd to me. You don't often hear about people getting stuff stuck inside their guitars. There's a huge hole in there where it'll be very easy for something to slip inside. Maybe cats are home playing with a ball of tissue paper. That can end up inside the guitar. Pull out tweezers, but then it'll have to come under the strings. Probably going to loosen them. Can you cut the strings open like you're doing surgery and then stitch them back together? Maybe you can do that, I suppose. Suppose so. Because the hole in the guitar, we all know that's a stand-in for a hole in a person. When people are playing the guitar and they have this hole and all the stuff, whatever happens there, the air or the sound waves is going in and out through it, or it's echoing, or whatever function it serves. We all know that's an analogy for the human body. If we didn't have these artificial guitars, we'd all have holes in our heads or our chests or some other body area. If you get a big hole in your chest and you're trying to use it as a musical instrument, that would be comparable to playing a guitar, because the ribs are still there. You don't remove those, so the ribs are pretty much a stand-in for the guitar strings, or vice versa. The guitar strings are a stand-in for the ribs. That's more like it, because the ribs are being around a lot longer than guitar strings. So no, of course, the ribs aren't the stand-in for the guitar strings. The guitar strings are a stand-in for the ribs. What you're playing there is an artificial chest when you're playing a guitar. And of course, I say ribs have been around a long time. They've been around almost since the beginning of time. According to religious people, the first human being had ribs and one of the ribs was removed to make the second human being, if I remember rightly. The first person who was made was faulty. They had too many ribs. And the creator decided, I'm going to take out one of these ribs. I'm going to turn it into something. I'm going to make something useful out of it. Because want not, waste not. If you have too many ribs, you give them away. And then, of course, for the rest of time, everyone thought, wait, did she have too few ribs? Or did he have too many? Or what happened there? What happened there, basically, is what people say. And no one really knows, so we have to go with guesswork. There's no exact science to ripping the rib out of someone's chest. Of course, it was done by a creator who presumably was able to do it more discreetly than that. He didn't just rip it out of your man's chest. Although maybe he did. Maybe he did it just for show. He wants to book on the show. Any magician who's doing something like that, you won't want to be too discreet because you're putting on a show. If you're taking a rabbit out of a hat, you don't sneak out behind the hat and then take the rabbit out quietly and make sure no one's looking. Make sure you don't disturb anyone in the audience who's busy looking at their phones. No, you say, look up here, I'm going to do something cool now, watch. Everybody watch, shine the spotlight on me here now on the stage and shine another spotlight on this hat here. Something is about to happen and I want you to see it. But you'll have to watch. I can't tell you what it is in advance because that'll ruin it somehow. Apparently knowing what's going to happen ruins it, no matter how cool it is. It's a fucking ridiculous concept. You can't do anything on stage and tell people you're going to do it, no matter how cool, because apparently that ruins it. To say, oh, I'm going to perform Tchaikovsky's trumpet concerto in D minor with a guitar made out of my own ribs attached to my chest. But I can't tell you I'm going to do that because that'll ruin the show for you. Maybe it'll ruin the show because it will be selective and people will decide they're not sure they're going to enjoy it, so they won't turn up. When in fact you know, as the entertainer, you know exactly what they want and you know they're going to enjoy it. They just don't know they're going to enjoy it. They have to see it before they know how cool it is and how much they enjoy it. So you have to trick them. You have to say, no, it's going to be a perfectly normal concert. No magic tricks. No making a hole in my chest and using my own ribs as guitar strings. Of course, the thing there you have to make sure the fella who's doing that is calcium deficient. Because if you're going to use your ribs as guitar strings, they can't be too firm. That's just not going to work at all. They have to... Now, how would that work exactly? I don't know. Do you have to have some strings tighter than others? Do they need to be adjustable? I suppose you just make them all as loose as possible and then come up with some sort of a device for tightening them. I don't know. I presume there's some way to do it though. There's always some way. Where there's a will, there's a way. And where there's a way, there's... Is this a load of bollocks? I think there probably is. Well, that's rather disappointing. 12 minutes into it, and I've only just realised it's a load of bollocks. So I've wasted a lot of my own time here. I haven't wasted any of yours unless I decide to use this, in which case I'll have wasted up to 12 minutes of your time, depending on whether I edit it or not. So we'll see. But if I carry on with this segment and I do a good few more minutes, and you're looking at it on your device and you're seeing, oh, there's 12 minutes of this and he said it's all crap. No, that's not the case at all. The first 12 minutes were crap, but then I kept speaking for another 20 minutes and then I edited all that down to 12 minutes of highlights. So what you're hearing now is the 12 minutes of highlights. I wouldn't do that to you. Tell you it's crap and then make you listen to it anyway. Or maybe I'm doing that thing that magicians do where I tell you nothing exciting is going to happen here. It's just going to be a normal thing. You come along and see. And I'm trying to... I don't know. I'm not doing that. That'd be fucking ridiculous.